All right, let's get right into it. We're about to unpack one of the weirdest, most confusing, but also one of the most powerful movements in the history of the theater of the absurd. This is a world where what looks like nothing can actually mean everything.
It all kind of starts with lines like this one, "Nothing to be done." That's one of the very first things you hear in what's probably the most famous absurd play ever. It's repetitive, it's a dead end, and it makes you think, wait, what is even happening here?
And that's the big question, isn't it? That's the puzzle we're trying to solve. Why on earth would brilliant writers choose to just throw away things like plot and logic? Well, to figure that out, we first have to understand the world that made them do it.
See, to really get this art, you have to look at the historical moment it was born from. This wasn't just artists trying to be different, this was a gut reaction to a world that had suddenly stopped making any sense at all. I mean, just look at this timeline. The middle of the 20th century. It wasn't just a crisis, it was a total breakdown. In just a few short years, humanity saw the end of the deadliest war in history, discovered the unbelievable horrors of the Holocaust, and then invented a bomb that could wipe us all out in a flash. The old ideas that the world was logical, that humanity was always progressing, all of that just evaporated.
So that's the key. All those old certainties people used to rely on, faith in progress, belief in human reason, the idea that there's some grand plan, they were just shattered. How could the world possibly make sense after all that? This deep feeling of disillusionment and anxiety was the soil where this new kind of art started to grow.
And the writer Albert Camus, he gave this feeling a name, the absurd. It's not that life is meaningless, it's that we humans are desperate for meaning, and we live in a universe that just gives us silence. It's that gap between our need for answers and the universe's refusal to give us any. Absurdist plays don't just talk about this idea, they make you feel it.
Okay, so if you're a playwright and you feel like the world has gone completely mad, how do you write a play about it? Well, you start by throwing the old rulebook out the window and inventing a whole new one. And this comparison just shows you how radical the change was. Traditional theater is neat and tidy. It has a logical story, people say things for a reason, and you get a nice, clean ending. Absurd theater, it's the total opposite. The plot just goes in circles, the dialogue breaks down into nonsense, and you almost never get a real resolution. It's meant to feel just as messy and confusing as life itself.
So, what does this actually look like on stage? Well, these are the main ingredients. You'll see characters who are completely isolated, talking at each other but never really connecting. It's like language itself has failed. They do the same pointless things over and over again. And the strangest part? It's often really, really funny. It's this dark humor, a mix of comedy and tragedy that perfectly captures how ridiculous the human situation can be.
Now, this wasn't just one person's idea. It was a real movement, led by a handful of masterminds, who each had their own unique way of putting this feeling on the stage.
First up, you have to talk about Samuel Beckett. His play, Waiting for Godot, is the absolute gold standard of nothing happening. Two characters, Vladimir and Estragon, they just wait for a man named Godot, who never shows up. And their endless, pointless waiting becomes this incredibly powerful, unforgettable metaphor for all of us, waiting for something to give our lives meaning. Then you've got someone like Eugene Ionesco. He was obsessed with how language falls apart. In his play, The Bald Soprano, you have characters just spouting cliches and nonsense until their words are basically just noise. It's his way of showing how much of our everyday talk is just empty routine. And you also had writers like Jean Genet, who used these bizarre, ritualistic plays to look at things like identity and power. In The Maids, two sisters get caught up in these strange, violent fantasies about their boss, blurring the lines between who they are and who they're pretending to be. It makes you wonder if our own sense of self is just an act we put on every day. So we've seen the history, we've seen the techniques, but let's circle back to our big puzzle. Why does any of this matter? What is the point of all this confusing stuff? Well, the point is in the questions these plays force us to think about. They're like a mirror held up to our biggest fears. The fear that life might be meaningless, that deep down we're all alone, that we can't really communicate, and the scary feeling that we're just going through the motions every day. And this right here is the most important thing to get. The theater of the absurd was never designed to give us easy answers. Its entire purpose is to put the hard questions right there on stage, to make us sit in the discomfort and uncertainty of life and to look it right in the face. Which, leaves us with the final thought. Think about our world today. It's filled with so much digital noise, so much social division. It often feels like we're all just shouting into the void, not really connecting. In a world like that, doesn't a theater about the failure of communication and the endless search for purpose feel strangely familiar? Maybe the absurd stage isn't just a thing of the past. Maybe it's the perfect mirror for right now.